Hey guys, tonight we're crouching low, dust swirling around your ankles as you peer into a sun-baked Persian courtyard. The air hangs heavy with the scent of jasmine and something else. Something distinctly feline. You can hear the soft thud of paws on packed earth, the rustle of whiskers against clay pots. A pair of golden eyes glint from the shadows, watching your every move. You reach out a hand, and a sleek, striped creature emerges, rubbing against your leg with a purr that vibrates right through you. And just so you know, stepping here without knowing what you're doing. You probably won't survive this, statistically. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself transported back, way back, to ancient Persia, a land of empires and sprawling deserts. You're following the trail of one of humanity's most enduring companions, the cat. Not the pampered fluffballs you might be familiar with, oh no. These are working cats. Cats of the grain stores, the guardians of granaries. You can almost smell the dusty wheat and the ever-present fear of rodents. You're not alone in this though. Persians recognized their utility and, well, tolerated their presence. Now, while we often associate cats with ancient Egypt, where they were practically deified, you've seen the statues, right? Their story stretches back further. Historians still argue whether domestication began in Egypt or the Fertile Crescent first, but the evidence points to a longer, more complex relationship between humans and felines than you might think. Imagine you're a farmer, millennia ago. You've got a problem, rats. They're eating your crops, spreading disease, generally being a nuisance. Then, one day, you notice a wildcat hanging around. It's drawn to the rodents, and before you know it, you've got a furry, four-legged exterminator on your hands. That's essentially the beginning of the cat's path to domestication. You see, it wasn't always about cuddles and Instagram photos. It was about survival. For both of you. And what was so great about ancient Persia? Well, it served as a crossroads. These cats were effective at controlling pests, so they ended up traveling along trade routes, hopping from civilization to civilization, like furry little stowaways. It's funny to think how much of history has been shaped by something as simple as a cat wanting to chase a mouse. Speaking of which, legend has it that some ancient Persian rulers even employed cat trainers, whose sole job was to keep the palace felines in tip-top hunting shape. Pretty cool gig, right? You feel a slight brush against your ankle as you step into a bustling Mesopotamian marketplace. Sacks of grain overflow and merchants hawk their wares. You spot a small, sandy-colored cat lounging lazily near a stall. It's got a distinctly different look than the pampered pets of modern households. Its eyes are sharper, its movements more deliberate, and, wait, is that a tiny silver bell tied to its collar? Seems like someone recognized its value and decided to invest in its upkeep. The first confirmed depictions of cats are, as mentioned, found in Egypt, dating back nearly 4,000 years. They show cats hunting birds, sitting under chairs, generally being cats. But the connection goes deeper than just artwork. Batet, the Egyptian goddess of home, fertility, and protection, was often depicted as a cat or a woman with a cat's head. Can you imagine the power? The ancient Egyptians revered cats so much, they were mummified, and killing one, even accidentally, could carry the death penalty. Imagine that, you getting the death penalty for accidentally stepping on a cat's tail. Harsh, right? Of course, there's always a fringe theory out there. Some researchers suggest that ancient mariners specifically brought cats aboard ships as emotional support animals. Can you imagine sailors, thousands of years ago, comforting a nervous feline during a storm? It's a surprisingly human image, isn't it? Maybe that's why the cat-sailor bond endures even to this day. You pause, catching your breath as you move across the desert. The sun is beating down mercilessly, and you're starting to understand why Persians have a certain respect for shade. You stumble upon an archaeological dig site. The air is thick with dust and the sound of brushes carefully sweeping away layers of earth. As you look closer, you see the team carefully excavating a skeleton. It isn't a human skeleton, though. It's a cat. And judging by the ornate pottery shards scattered around it, this wasn't just any cat. It was a revered member of the household. That's the fascinating thing about cats. Their story isn't just about pest control. It's about companionship, faith, and the slow, subtle process of domestication that has shaped both our lives and theirs. Even now, historians still debate the precise timeline of cat domestication, especially the specifics of where and when wild cats crossed the line from wild to somewhat domesticated. Is it a specific breed? Is it just a gradual shift? There are new genetic findings all the time. But whether it happened in Persia, Egypt, or somewhere in between, one thing is certain: these furry creatures have earned their place in history. You feel the shift in the wind, the change in the light. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the desert landscape. You look back, and the ancient world seems to shimmer and fade, like a mirage. The cats of Persia, the revered felines of Egypt, they all disappear back into the mists of time, leaving you with a deeper appreciation for these enigmatic creatures that share our homes and our history. You also swear you can still smell the faint scent of jasmine in cat fur. Okay, let's dive back into the wonderful world of feline distribution, shall we? So, you're probably picturing ancient mariners, right? Scraggly bearded types hauling bolts of silk and, of course, a fluffy little stowaway clinging to a rope. And you wouldn't be entirely wrong. Think of the ancient world as this giant, interconnected web, with trade routes as the silken threads that crisscross continents. These weren't just for spices and textiles, you know. They were also the highways for the humble house cat, ready to conquer the world, one shipping manifest at a time. Imagine you're a merchant, sweating in the Egyptian sun, loading grain onto a ship bound for, well, anywhere that will pay a good price. Grain attracts rodents. Rodents attract cats. Simple, really. It's like bringing your own furry, purring pest control. Cats, being the opportunistic creatures they are, saw these ships as miniature floating buffets. Free food, new places to explore, and a captive audience to admire their superior hunting skills. Honestly, who could resist? And you certainly couldn't convince them to get off when you reach port. And these weren't just any ships. They were the lifeline of empires. The Roman Empire, that sprawling beast of roads and legions, relied heavily on maritime trade. Egypt was their breadbasket, literally. Which meant a constant stream of ships laden with grain, and yes, you guessed it, cats. Historians still argue whether the Romans intentionally brought cats with them to control rodents in their settlements, or if the cats were simply hitchhikers on this grand adventure. Either way, it's pretty safe to say that a Roman soldier likely shared his rations, and maybe even his tent, with a feline friend at some point. Think about it, a Roman fort in, say, Britannia. Cold, damp, and probably overrun with mice. What a perfect place for a savvy Egyptian cat to set up shop. And these weren't the pampered Persians we talked about before. These were working cats, tough, adaptable, and ready to earn their keep. They were the original, essential workers, tirelessly battling the rodent hordes and keeping the grain stores safe. We salute them. Now, here's a fun fact. Did you know that cats were sometimes used as a sort of portable weather vane? Okay, not exactly, but their behavior was observed to predict the weather. Apparently, if a cat was particularly energetic and playful, it meant a storm was brewing. Honestly, I'd be more likely to trust my weather app, but hey, who am I to judge ancient weather forecasting methods? Especially when they involve cats. But trade wasn't just limited to the Mediterranean. You have the Silk Road, that legendary network of routes that connected east and west. Caravans laden with silk, spices, and porcelain trundled across vast deserts and mountain ranges. And guess who went along for the ride? You got it, our feline friends. They traded grain stores for Bactrian camel humps. Okay, maybe not, but you get the idea. The Silk Road was more than just a trade route, it was a cultural exchange. Ideas, religions, and, of course, cats traveled along its dusty paths. Imagine a sleek, Egyptian Mao, a breed known for its spots and intelligence, arriving in China, mingling with the local felines and contributing to the gene pool. Suddenly, you have a whole new range of colors and patterns emerging in the Chinese cat population. Evolution at its finest. And the cats probably didn't even realize they were participating in such an important historical process. They were just looking for a warm place to nap and maybe a stray cricket or two. Speaking of China, here's another interesting tidbit. Cats were kept in the Forbidden City, not just as mousers but as companions to the imperial family. They were often depicted in artwork and poetry, symbolizing good luck and prosperity. Talk about a pampered existence. I bet those cats had better accommodations than some of the palace officials. And knowing cats, they probably knew it too. I swear, they can sense when they're in charge. But let's get back to the sea. Maritime trade truly revolutionized cat dispersal. You can almost imagine these cats, little furry conquistadors, claiming new territories in the name of, well, themselves, mostly. They weren't exactly loyal to anyone but themselves, were they? And maybe the nice merchant who occasionally slipped them a piece of fish. And it wasn't just the official trade routes that mattered. Think of the smaller, less documented voyages. Fishing boats, coastal traders, even pirate ships. All potential cat-carrying vessels. It's like the feline version of Uber, hopping from boat to boat, conquering the globe one port city at a time. 5 stars. Would definitely ride again. The captain was a bit grumpy, but the fish was excellent. This period also saw the rise of various port cities, bustling hubs of commerce and cultural exchange. Alexandria, Venice, Constantinople, all vital links in the global trade network, and all prime real estate for cats. These cities were magnets for people, goods, and, yes, you guessed it, cats. They became melting pots of feline breeds, with cats from all corners of the known world interbreeding and creating new and exciting variations. I always find it amusing how cats, despite their relatively small size, have played such a significant role in shaping the world. They weren't intentionally spreading around, but their presence had a ripple effect, influencing everything from rodent populations to local cultures. It's a testament to their adaptability and their sheer audacity. They simply decided they wanted to see the world, and they found a way to do it, one cargo ship at a time. It's all really fascinating, isn't it? Oh. You know, I do feel like I ought to address some modern thoughts in this bit. You hear so much about modern cat breeds, right? Like the SPHNX. The hairless cats. Or those Scottish folds with the floppy ears. They're quite cute, but I have to say. If you just get a random Mauga kitty, you can't go wrong. There's even a theory that certain cat breeds are more prone to certain personality traits. But frankly, it's all about how you raise them, right? I knew this one cat that was technically a ragdoll. But he'd be the one starting fights, okay? Anyway. Where were we? Ah yes. The cats conquering the world. So, who funded their efforts, you ask? Well, no one really. But this is actually a good segue. Okay, let's dive into the fluffy, cloud-like world of, well, you'll find out soon enough, won't you? You're sinking into your favorite armchair, maybe got a cup of chamomile, and you're ready to unravel the mystery of this particularly adorable breed. Good choice. You might even doze off. I won't judge. You're probably picturing that one dog right now, the one that makes you stop dead in your tracks with its sheer, almost overwhelming, puffiness. A walking, barking cotton ball. Is it a Samoyed? Maybe an American Eskimo? Close, but maybe not quite. We're talking about the majestic, the slightly ridiculous, the overwhelmingly fluffy. Chow chow. Yeah, that's right, The Chow Chow. Before you conjure images of imperious dogs judging you from behind a wall of fur, let's consider the aesthetic for a moment. You're running your fingers, virtually, of course, no touching random chows, through that incredibly dense coat. Imagine the texture, almost coarse on the outer guard hairs, providing a weatherproof shield. Then, underneath, that downy, soft undercoat. It's like wearing two sweaters at once, except the sweaters are attached to a dog. A very fluffy, slightly grumpy-looking dog. You're seeing the familiar colors, aren't you? Red, of course, the most iconic Chow Chow hue. That rich, almost rusty red that seems to absorb sunlight. But then you also get black, which is quite dramatic, blue, which is a sort of steely gray, cinnamon, a warmer, browner shade, and cream, which is so pale it looks like they've been rolled in powdered sugar. Talk about range. And you think your wardrobe has variety. Now, you're probably picturing the lion's mane, that ruff around the neck that gives them the noble, almost regal appearance. It's no accident, really. For centuries, Chow Chows were depicted in art as guardians of temples and palaces. Imagine showing up to work and your job is literally looking majestic. No performance reviews here. You might even be noticing the smaller details, the bear-like face, the almond-shaped eyes that seem to hold ancient secrets, or maybe just a strong desire for a nap. It's hard to tell sometimes. One thing's for certain, they have the most distinctive black/blue tongue, which is where the fringe trivia comes in. The breed also had the genetic marker for a tail, and it got shorter as the breed aged through generations. But how did this walking fur factory come to be? Let's rewind a bit, shall we? You're stepping back in time, way back, to the misty mountains and vast plains of northern China. Historians still argue whether the Chow Chow is one of the most ancient dog breeds, but evidence suggests their ancestry stretches back over 2,000 years. That's longer than your last relationship. You see them in ancient pottery and sculptures from the Han Dynasty, 206 BC, 220 AD. These weren't just pets, these were working dogs. They were versatile companions, capable of hunting, herding, guarding, and even pulling sleds. A canine Swiss Army knife, really. Talk about multitasking. You're seeing them alongside nomadic tribes, braving harsh winters and long journeys. You're picturing them in monasteries, guarding sacred spaces and offering companionship to monks. They were prized possessions, valued for their loyalty, strength, and, let's be honest, their incredibly warm fur. Now, let's not get too romantic. Life wasn't all temple bells and gentle herding. These dogs were also, eaten. Yeah, that's the slightly less fluffy part of their history. Chow Chow meat was considered a delicacy in some regions of China, and their fur was used for clothing. A practical breed in every sense of the word, I suppose. Think of it as zero-waste living, ancient Chinese style. You're traveling forward now, a few centuries later, to a China undergoing significant change. The Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907 AD, a period of great cultural and economic expansion. And what were the Chow Chows doing? Still being awesome, mostly. They were still hunting and guarding, but they were also becoming more popular as companion animals, particularly among the wealthy. They were living the high life, lounging in palace gardens, being pampered and adored. The canine equivalent of Instagram influencers, perhaps. You can imagine them posing for portraits, draped in silk, their fluffy faces radiating an air of aristocratic boredom. Another day, another belly rub. Sigh. You're noticing how this shift in their role influenced their appearance. Breeders likely began selecting for certain traits, a more impressive mane, a softer coat, a more distinctive look. They were creating a status symbol, a living, breathing work of art. You're jumping forward again, this time to the late 18th century. You're on a trading ship, sailing from China to England. On board, alongside tea, silk, and spices, are a few unusual-looking dogs. You're seeing the bewildered faces of sailors as they try to pronounce Chow Chow, a pidgin English term that referred to a mishmash of goods from the East. Apparently, the name just stuck. You're landing in England, a land of dog shows and pedigree obsession. The Victorian era is in full swing, and everyone is mad about breeds. The Chow Chow is a novelty, an exotic curiosity. You're seeing them exhibited at zoos and circuses, where their unique appearance draws crowds. Come one, come all. See the bear dog from the Orient. But it wasn't long before serious dog breeders took notice. They saw the potential, the unique characteristics that set the Chow Chow apart. You're witnessing the start of the breed's formal development in the West. Standards are being written, bloodlines are being established, and the Chow Chow is officially becoming a thing. You're probably wondering, what about the blue tongue? Where did that come from? That's one of the breed's defining characteristics, right? Well, here's where it gets interesting. Historians still argue whether the blue tongue is a mutation or a remnant of some ancient ancestor. Some theories suggest a connection to other Asian breeds with similar tongue pigmentation, like the Shar-Pei. Other theories, well, let's just say they involve dragons and mythical creatures. You pick which one you prefer. I know which I would. You're watching the breed gain popularity, slowly but surely. Kennel clubs are recognizing them, dog shows are featuring them, and families are starting to bring them home. You're seeing them adapt to life in Western homes, learning to navigate the complexities of suburban existence. And judging you. Always judging. You're laughing because you're remembering that iconic episode of Friends where Joey adopts a Chow Chow puppy. That's pretty much the peak of pop culture relevance, isn't it? And if you're a true fan, you know it wasn't just any Chow Chow, it was a floppy Chow Chow. You can't imagine a floppy Chow Chow in real life, and that's just hilarious to imagine. The writers must have needed another draft. You're seeing the breed's numbers fluctuate over the years. They have periods of immense popularity, followed by periods of relative obscurity. It's the circle of life, Canine Edition. But through it all, the Chow Chow has remained a constant, a reminder of its ancient origins and its unique place in the world. You're recognizing that the Chow Chow isn't for everyone. They are independent, sometimes aloof, and prone to shedding enough fur to knit a whole other dog. But for those who appreciate their unique qualities, their loyalty, and their undeniable fluffiness, they are truly special companions. You're concluding that understanding the Chow Chow's appearance and breed development is about more than just appreciating their fluffy coat and distinctive features. It's about understanding their history, their cultural significance, and their enduring appeal. It's about recognizing that behind that often stoic expression lies a dog with a rich and complex past, a dog that has been a hunter, a herder, a guardian, and a companion. You're thinking that the next time you see a Chow Chow, you'll look at them with a newfound appreciation. You'll see not just a fluffy dog, but a living piece of history. And maybe, just maybe, you'll resist the urge to reach out and bury your face in their fur. Maybe. I wouldn't bet on it. They do look really, really soft. You're drifting off now, the images of fluffy Chow Chows dancing in your head. You're dreaming of ancient China, of trading ships, of Victorian dog shows. And you're realizing that the Chow Chow, in all its fluffy glory, is truly a remarkable breed. Now go get some sleep. You've earned it. Okay, settle in, settle in. Let your eyelids get heavy, your shoulders drop, purr. That's it. Just let yourself go limp. We're not doing anything strenuous today. No, sir. Just a little jaunt across the pond. A teeny tiny hop, skip, and a jump to Europe. And who's gonna be our tour guides? Who else but the feline overlords? Yes, you are now following a shimmering tabby, tail held high, as it nonchalantly leads you off your porch, down the street, and, improbably, straight onto a transatlantic flight. Don't question it. Just go with it. It's far less effort than trying to figure out the logistics. Besides, have you seen the legroom in economy lately? You're better off letting a cat dictate your travel arrangements. Purr. Alright, we've landed. Brace yourself, because this tabby has a serious agenda. We're in Italy. Specifically, Florence. And you're immediately struck by the sheer sensory overload. The warm terracotta hues of the buildings, the aroma of espresso and leather clinging to the air, the melodic rise and fall of Italian being spoken all around you. Take a deep breath. Smell that? That's history, baby. And a hint of Parmesan. Now, our furry friend is practically dragging you towards a magnificent, sprawling cathedral. Brunelleschi's dome, to be exact. The Duomo. You can crane your neck all you want, it's even more impressive on the inside. And let me tell you, getting a cat to appreciate architecture. That's an accomplishment worthy of a Nobel Prize. Though, knowing cats, they'd probably just knock it off the shelf. This, my sleepy friend, is the heart of the Renaissance. That period, stretching roughly from the 14th to the 16th century, when Europe, or at least a small, influential part of it, rediscovered classical art, literature, and philosophy after centuries of, let's just say, less enthusiastic intellectual pursuit. Mainstream history fact number 1, the Renaissance was, in part, fueled by the rediscovery of ancient Greek and Roman texts that had been preserved in monasteries and, ironically, in the Islamic world. Scholars were like, whoa, these guys had some ideas. And that sparked a whole new way of thinking about art, science, and the role of humanity in the universe. Quirky fact number 1, some Renaissance scholars believed that ancient Egyptians had possessed secret magical knowledge and that hieroglyphs contained hidden alchemical formulas. Talk about your conspiracy theories. Think Dan Brown, but with slightly better fashion sense. Though, let's be honest, Renaissance fashion was pretty out there. Those puffy sleeves. What were they thinking? And the scholarly debate? Well, historians still argue whether the Renaissance was a truly radical break from the Middle Ages, or a gradual evolution of existing trends. Was it a dawn, or just a particularly enthusiastic sunrise? It depends on who you ask. Some historians argue that the Renaissance was not a rebirth at all, but instead, a continuation of medieval trends. But back to our feline tour guide. He's now nudging you towards a painting. Specifically, Sandro Botticelli's Birth of Venus. A gorgeous depiction of the goddess of love emerging from a seashell. You can practically feel the sea breeze on your face. It's ethereal, it's beautiful, and frankly, you're wondering if the tabby gets commission for bringing you here. Next stop, France. And this time, the cat opted for the high-speed train. Much more civilized, don't you think? We're in the Loire Valley, land of fairy tale castles, rolling vineyards, and, of course, more cats. This tabby has friends everywhere, apparently. You find yourself standing before Château de Chambord, a massive, opulent castle that looks like something straight out of a Disney movie. And, fun fact, it was partially designed by Leonardo da Vinci himself. Though, he probably didn't oversee the moat cleaning schedule. Mainstream historical fact number 2, the French Renaissance was heavily influenced by the Italian Renaissance, particularly after King Francis I invaded Italy in the early 16th century. He was so impressed with the art and architecture that he brought Italian artists and architects back to France to help him build his own masterpieces. Now, France put its own unique spin on things. French Renaissance architecture, for example, blended Italian Renaissance ideas with traditional French Gothic styles. The result? A look that is uniquely French. Look at the gargoyles. Our feline friend is now leading you through the castle's opulent interiors. Tapestries, gilded furniture, portraits of stern-looking monarchs, the works. You can almost hear the echoes of courtly intrigue and whispered secrets. Maybe those stern-looking monarchs know where my other sock went. Quirky fact number 2, Catherine de' Medici, the Queen of France in the 16th century, was rumored to have introduced forks to the French court. Before that, everyone just used their fingers. Can you imagine trying to eat escargots without a fork? Disaster. And the scholarly debate? Historians still argue about the extent to which the French Renaissance was a distinct movement, or simply a regional variation of the Italian Renaissance. Was it its own thing, or just a really enthusiastic cover band? Some historians would also argue that the Renaissance itself didn't truly affect the common people of France and Italy, but instead, was for the wealthy and privileged classes. Now, our cat guide is getting impatient. He wants to show you the gardens. And, my goodness, they are spectacular. Manicured lawns, perfectly trimmed hedges, fountains that seem to defy gravity. You could spend hours just wandering through them. But the tabby is having none of it. He's on a mission. A very important mission. Probably involving tuna. Purr. Next, we are quickly being led to the final destination, Paris. And, oh Paris. The city of lights. The city of love. The city of, well, a lot of pigeons, actually. But let's focus on the romance, shall we? Your feline companion has led you to the Louvre Museum, home to some of the most iconic artworks in the world. Including, of course, the Mona Lisa. You jostle your way through the crowds, trying to catch a glimpse of that enigmatic smile. And let me tell you, it is smaller than you imagined. You almost feel bad for Leonardo da Vinci. Imagine people always analyzing the small, intimate things that you created. Mainstream historical fact number 3, the French Renaissance saw a flourishing of literature, with writers like François Rabelais and Michel de Montaigne pushing the boundaries of thought and expression. Rabelais, in particular, was known for his satirical and often outrageous works. Think Monty Python, but written in Old French. Quirky fact number 3, King Henry IV of France famously declared that he wanted every peasant in his kingdom to have a chicken in every pot on Sundays. Talk about your populist policies. Can you imagine a politician today promising every American a free rotisserie chicken every week? They'd be elected in a landslide. Purr. And the scholarly debate? Historians continue to debate the legacy of the Renaissance, some arguing that it was a period of unprecedented progress and innovation, while others point to its elitism and its limited impact on the lives of ordinary people. Was it a golden age for everyone, or just a select few? Some scholars argue that the era saw little advancements for women. But back to the Mona Lisa. Our tabby friend is clearly unimpressed. He gives it a cursory glance, then turns away with a disdainful flick of his tail. Been there, seen that, he seems to say. Now, where's the catnip? I hear you, little buddy. I hear you. Purr. You take one last look around, soaking in the atmosphere, the history, the sheer cultural richness of it all. You feel a sense of awe, a sense of wonder, a sense of exhaustion. All that art appreciation is hard work, you know. But as you follow your feline guide back out into the Parisian streets, you realize that you've experienced something truly special. A glimpse into a world of beauty, innovation, and intrigue. A world shaped by artists, thinkers, and, of course, cats. And with that, the tabby leads you back onto another plane, somehow, and back to your own home. Back to your own bed. Back to sleep. Yes, that sounds lovely, doesn't it? Just close your eyes. And let the dreams of the Renaissance wash over you. Okay, settle in, cozy up. Imagine the softest blanket, maybe a cup of chamomile. We're going on a journey, a perfect journey, you might say. Yeah, I know, sorry. We're diving headfirst into the fascinating, often overlooked, world of cats in art and literature. Not just any cats, mind you, but the ones who've managed to claw their way, see what I did there? Into the hallowed halls of royal portraiture. So, picture this, you're strolling through a grand palace, the kind with endless hallways and ridiculously oversized chandeliers. You're already half asleep, right? Good. The light glints off the gold frames of portraits stretching as far as the eye can see. Kings, queens, dukes, duchesses, all looking incredibly self-important. You know the drill. And then, amidst all the ermine and velvet, you spotted a flash of fur. A pair of knowing eyes. A cat. Now, it's not like these royal felines are always front and center, hogging the limelight. No, they're often tucked away in corners, perched on cushions, or maybe even sneaking a lick of milk from a nearby table, pretending they don't realize you exist. But their presence speaks volumes. Take, for example, the portraits of Queen Henrietta Maria, wife of Charles I of England. Now, Charles, bless his heart, wasn't exactly known for his political savvy. He lost his head, literally, in the English Civil War. But Henrietta Maria? She was sharp. And she loved her cats. A staunch Catholic in a Protestant country, she surrounded herself with symbols of her faith and her personality. And often, nestled near her feet in official portraits, you'll find a fluffy, well-fed feline. Now, what's the deal with this feline favoritism? Well, cats, even back then, were seen as symbols of domesticity, comfort, and even a little bit of cunning. For Henrietta Maria, they might have represented a quiet strength, a sense of calm amidst the political turmoil swirling around her. It's a subtle message: yes, I'm a queen, but I'm also a woman who enjoys the simple pleasures in life, like a good cat nap. Of course, not all royal cats were created equal. Some were pampered pets, living the high life on silk pillows and silver platters. Others, well, they were probably just there to catch mice. But even the humble mouser played a role. Think about it, a royal palace teeming with rodents. Not exactly a good look. So, the cats, in their own quiet way, were contributing to the upkeep of the realm. They were furry little civil servants, working tirelessly behind the scenes. Or, napping behind the arras. Speaking of behind the scenes, there's a rather interesting theory floating around about the prevalence of black cats in royal households. Legend has it, particularly in medieval Europe, that black cats were often associated with witchcraft. Now, hear me out. Some historians speculate that keeping a black cat was a subtle way for royals to signal their unconventional leanings. Maybe they dabbled in a bit of the occult themselves, or maybe they just enjoyed challenging societal norms. Historians still argue whether this was an intentional statement or just a coincidence, given how common black cats were, but the image of a king secretly consulting a crystal ball while his black cat purrs on his lap is certainly appealing, wouldn't you say? And let's not forget the artistic side of things. Painters, after all, were often commissioned to portray the royals in the most flattering light possible. Adding a cat to the composition could soften the image, making the monarch appear more approachable, more human. It's a clever trick, really. You're wielding immense power, but hey, you also like to cuddle with your kitty. Relatable, right? There was this one time a portrait painter had to completely redo a painting because the Queen's favorite Persian refused to cooperate. Apparently, the cat kept turning its back to the artist and swatting at the brushes. In the end, they had to bribe it with a plate of salmon. Honestly, sounds like my cat. The sheer audacity. Of course, the symbolism of cats wasn't always positive. In some cultures, cats were associated with trickery, deceit, and even bad luck. Remember, these were the days before the internet exploded with cute cat videos. The public opinion of felines was a bit more complicated. So, including a cat in a royal portrait could be a risky move. It all depended on the context, the artist's skill, and, of course, the cat's own personality. One mainstream historical fact: cats were domesticated in the Near East around 7500 BC and were valued for their ability to control rodent populations, thus protecting grain stores. They spread throughout the world, becoming beloved pets and working animals. And, okay, maybe I'm reaching here, but I think there's also something to be said about the sheer practicality of having a cat around in a drafty old castle. Those places were cold. A warm, furry body snuggled up next to you. That's a luxury, my friend. Forget the jewels and the silks, the real treasure was a purring companion. Alright, let's zoom forward in time. The 18th and 19th centuries saw a boom in pet portraiture, and cats were definitely part of the trend. You see wealthy families commissioning portraits of their beloved companions, often posed alongside their owners. These paintings offer a fascinating glimpse into the changing relationship between humans and animals. Cats were no longer just utilitarian mousers, they were becoming cherished members of the family. But even in these more sentimental depictions, the cat's inherent mystery remains. Think about it, can you ever truly know what a cat is thinking? They are masters of the enigmatic gaze, the subtle flick of the tail. And that's part of their appeal, isn't it? They keep us guessing. They challenge us. They remind us that there's still a little bit of wildness in the world. Now, there's this fringe theory that some royal families actually used their cats to send secret messages through their portraits. Apparently, the position of the cat's tail, the color of its eyes, or even the type of collar it wore could all be coded signals to other members of the court. Sounds a bit far-fetched, doesn't it? Like something out of a cheesy spy novel. But hey, stranger things have happened. Plus, imagine the cat's face if it knew it was carrying state secrets on its tail. And what about the literary world? Cats have always been popular characters in stories, poems, and plays. From the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland to T.S. Eliot's Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats, these literary felines have captured our imaginations and revealed deeper truths about ourselves. They are mischievous, wise, independent, and often more insightful than the humans around them. In literature, cats are rarely just cats, they are symbols of freedom, intelligence, and the untamed spirit. Historians still argue whether the rise in popularity of cats in art and literature reflects a genuine shift in societal attitudes or simply a change in artistic tastes. It's a complex question with no easy answer. But one thing is clear, cats have left an indelible paw print, last one, I promise, on the cultural landscape. So, next time you're wandering through a museum or browsing through a dusty old book, keep an eye out for those feline figures lurking in the shadows. They may not be the stars of the show, but they have a story to tell. A story of power, mystery, and the enduring bond between humans and their furry friends. Plus, they were probably the best-behaved members of court. Seriously, have you seen some of those wigs? Now, wasn't that a captivating journey? I know. I'm the worst. Alright, settle down, deep breaths. You're doing great. Okay, settle in, grab a cup of something warm, and let's delve into a world of petticoats, parlor games, and perfect companions. Because tonight, we're going back to Victorian England, a place where industry boomed, empires expanded, and, well, cats became the bee's knees. You're probably imagining soot-covered streets and grim factories, right? And you're not wrong, but tucked away in those terraced houses, behind lace curtains and aspidistras, a furry revolution was brewing. Picture this, you trudge home after a long day, maybe you're a clerk hunched over ledgers all day, or perhaps you're managing a bustling household, either way, you're exhausted. The streets are noisy, the air smells faintly of coal smoke and, something vaguely floral. Is that lavender? Anyway, you push open your front door and there it is. A warm, inviting glow and, a soft, furry weight settling onto your lap the moment you sit down. A purr rumbles through you, a gentle vibration that melts away the day's stress. That, my friend, is the power of the Victorian cat. For centuries, cats have been working animals, rodent control experts in barns and warehouses. They were useful, sure, but not exactly pampered. You might toss them a scrap of food now and then, but that was about it. But something shifted in the 19th century. The Industrial Revolution, ironically, gave rise to a growing middle class with more leisure time and disposable income. And what better way to spend that income than on a fluffy friend? Historians still argue whether this rising affection for cats was a reaction against the cold, impersonal nature of industrialization, a way to reconnect with the natural world in an increasingly urban landscape. Or maybe it was simply because, well, cats are really, really cute. I mean, have you seen a kitten sneezing? I digress. But whatever the reason, the Victorian era saw a surge in cat ownership. Queen Victoria herself was a devoted cat lover, owning several Persians, which, let's be honest, were basically the status symbol of the feline world. Owning a Persian back then was the equivalent of driving a fancy car today. And, like today, everyone wanted to emulate royalty. This royal endorsement definitely helped to popularize cats. You see them popping up in paintings, photographs, and even postcards. They were no longer just utilitarian mousers, they were members of the family, often given elaborate names like White Heather or Archimedes. Can you imagine calling your cat Archimedes today? It just doesn't have the same ring, does it? I suppose if you had a very intelligent, perhaps scientifically minded feline, it might work. But mostly, it's just a bit much. And with this newfound popularity came a whole industry catering to the needs of these pampered pets. Cat food companies emerged, offering specialized diets to keep your feline friend healthy and happy. Think of it. No more table scraps for precious Mr. Fluffington. He's getting biscuits. Cat furniture became increasingly elaborate, with carpeted scratching posts and multi-tiered cat trees that would make even the most discerning feline feel like royalty. Actually, I could use one of those, my back gets sore sometimes. The Victorian obsession with cats even extended to the art world. Artists like Louis Wain gained fame for his whimsical, anthropomorphic depictions of cats, portraying them in human situations, playing cards, attending parties, even driving cars. Okay, maybe not driving cars, but you get the picture. These images were incredibly popular, and Wain's work helped to further humanize cats in the public imagination. It's said that Wain's later descent into mental illness was reflected in the increasingly abstract and distorted depictions of cats in his art. So, not all sunshine and rainbows then. Now, here's a quirky little fact for you: cat shows. The first organized cat show took place at the Crystal Palace in London in 1871. Can you imagine the sheer volume of cat fur in that place? It must have been an allergy sufferer's nightmare. These shows were a celebration of all things feline, with different breeds competing for prizes and bragging rights. These weren't your average stray cats, these were meticulously groomed, perfectly coiffed, purebred felines. It was essentially the Westminster Dog Show, but with more judgmental glares and less enthusiastic tail wagging. These cat shows, while seemingly frivolous, played a crucial role in the development of cat breeds as we know them today. Breeders began to selectively breed cats for specific traits, creating new and distinctive breeds like the British Shorthair and the Persian, which became increasingly popular. So, in a way, Victorian cat shows were the OG of cat breeding, shaping the feline landscape for generations to come. The Victorian era also saw the rise of the cat lady archetype, though perhaps not in the way you might think. Back then, it wasn't necessarily a pejorative term. Women, often unmarried or widowed, found companionship and purpose in caring for cats. They were often seen as eccentric, perhaps, but also as kind and compassionate. Think of it as the early stages of female empowerment, with cats. There was, of course, a darker side to this feline fascination. The same Victorian society that adored cats also had a rather interesting relationship with animal welfare in general. While some championed animal rights, others viewed animals as property, to be used and abused as they saw fit. Cruelty to animals was widespread, and cats were not always spared. But the growing affection for cats did contribute to a slow but steady shift in attitudes towards animal welfare, paving the way for the modern animal rights movement. You know, it's always something. Now, here's a little fringe tidbit for you. Some believe that cats were also seen as symbols of feminine independence and even witchcraft during the Victorian era. This is probably stretching it a bit, but there's a certain logic to it. Cats were seen as mysterious, independent creatures, qualities that were often associated with women who challenged societal norms. So, while they weren't exactly burning cats at the stake, at least, not that we know of, there was a certain underlying tension in the relationship between cats and Victorian society. But you know, people do tend to think cats are witchy. I think they're just a little bit judgmental. And speaking of judgmental glares, let's not forget the rise of fancy cat names. We already touched on White Heather and Archimedes, but Victorian cat owners took naming their pets very seriously. There was a whole etiquette surrounding cat names. They had to be elegant, sophisticated, and preferably slightly ridiculous. You wouldn't just call your cat Fluffy, you'd call her Lady Guinevere Fluffington III. I may be exaggerating, but not by much. In conclusion, the Victorian era was a pivotal moment in the history of cats. They went from being working animals to cherished companions, symbols of status, and even muses for artists. The rise of cat fancy in Victorian England reflected broader societal changes, including the rise of the middle class, the growing interest in animal welfare, and the changing roles of women. Historians still argue over the exact significance of this feline fascination, but one thing is certain: the Victorians loved their cats, and their love helped to shape the feline world as we know it today. So next time you see a cat curled up in a sunny spot, take a moment to appreciate the legacy of the Victorian cat craze. And maybe give it a little chin scratch. They deserve it. Well, that was fun. I think. Now off you go, off to sleep. Alright, hey there, sleepyheads. Settle in, fluff your pillows. We're diving deeper into the world of royal felines, a journey perfect for those of you who find comfort in the soothing hum of history. You're probably curled up, maybe with a furry friend nearby, maybe even a royal, spoiled one. And really, who can blame you? There's something undeniably regal about a cat, a certain air of nonchalant superiority that suggests they, too, might be descended from a long line of, well, slightly judgmental emperors. Now, picture this: it's the mid-19th century. You're bustling through the cobbled streets of London, the air thick with coal smoke and the clatter of horse-drawn carriages. Suddenly, you spot her. Queen Victoria, a figure of immense power and influence, but also, a cat lover. And it's this aspect of her reign, her personal affection for these creatures, that had a surprisingly significant impact on the popularity of specific breeds, a furry phenomenon we're still feeling the effects of today. You see, before Victoria, cats were, well, just cats. Mousers, primarily. Utilitarian creatures who earned their keep by keeping the rodent population in check. Now, sure, there were fancy cats here and there, pampered pets of the aristocracy, but the idea of breeds as we know them today? Not quite. That was about to change, and you, my friend, are about to witness the revolution. A feline revolution, naturally. Queen Victoria, bless her heart, wasn't just a monarch, she was a trendsetter. Whatever she favored, the public tended to follow. And one of her great loves was cats. You might imagine her surrounded by corgis, but the reality is far more diverse, far more, feline star. She owned Persians, Siamese, and even Scottish wildcats. The Persians, with their luxurious, flowing fur, were particular favorites. Think of them as the Victoria's Secret models of the cat world at the time. Fluffy, glamorous, and undeniably, regal. And her influence didn't stop there. She was known to show her cats at early cat shows, events that were just starting to gain traction in the mid-19th century. Can you imagine? Queen Victoria, discreetly checking out the competition, making mental notes on the fluffiness of their tails. It's delightful, isn't it? You can almost see her now, peering through her lorgnette, whispering, quite impressive, but my Persian has a certain, je ne sais quoi. The thing is, when the Queen of England shows up at a cat show, people pay attention. Suddenly, Persians aren't just fancy cats anymore, they're royal cats. And if the Queen has one, well, you simply must have one too, mustn't you? Now, here's a quirky little fact for you. Queen Victoria's love for cats wasn't limited to the domestic kind. She also had a soft spot for, well, the slightly less cuddly variety. She reportedly kept several wild cats at her Scottish estate, Balmoral. Can you just picture it? Queen Victoria, surrounded by her fluffy Persians indoors, and then, just outside the window, a family of Scottish wildcats eyeing her with a mixture of suspicion and, perhaps a little grudging respect. I mean, hey, free food is free food, even if it's offered by the Queen. Historians still argue whether these wild cats were truly pets in the traditional sense, or whether they were more like tolerated freeloaders who happened to live on royal property. Either way, it's a fascinating glimpse into Victoria's rather eclectic taste in felines. And, think about the sheer Victorian-ness of it all. The fascination with the exotic, the desire to collect and classify the natural world, the almost obsessive attention to detail, it all culminated in this burgeoning cat fancy. Suddenly, people were breeding cats with specific traits in mind, striving for the perfect Persian or the most elegant Siamese. It was a whole new world, a world of rosette patterns, eye colors, and meticulously groomed fur. It was a world of cat pageants. This newfound interest in breeds led to some, shall we say, interesting developments. You have to remember, genetics weren't exactly well understood back then. Breeding practices were often experimental, to put it mildly. Imagine the poor cat subjected to these early attempts at selective breeding. Victorian cat breeders were, well, they were certainly trying. You can almost see the trial and error. More fluff. No, too much fluff. We need a balanced fluff. And it's also important to note that Queen Victoria wasn't alone in her feline affections. Other members of the royal family also kept cats, further solidifying their place in society. Her son, Edward VII, for example, was known to be fond of cats, and his patronage helped to sustain the popularity of various breeds. It was a regular feline love-in. The royal family, the paparazzi of the time, and all the world's eyes, all loving cats. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, Queen Victoria liked cats. We get it. But did it really have that big of an impact? And the answer, my sleepy friend, is a resounding yes. Her public affection for these creatures helped to elevate their status from mere mousers to beloved companions. It helped to legitimize the burgeoning cat fancy, encouraging breeders and enthusiasts to pursue their passion. She essentially created the climate in which the cat show culture could flourish. And those cat shows, my friends, were serious business. You're talking about intense competition, elaborate grooming rituals, and enough catnip to send a small village into a collective trance. The stakes were high, the fur was fluffy, and the judges, well, let's just say they had some very strong opinions about the ideal ear shape. And her influence extended beyond just the upper classes. As cat breeds became more established and readily available, they trickled down to the middle classes, becoming increasingly common household pets. Suddenly, owning a Persian wasn't just a symbol of royal status, it was a sign that you were a discerning individual with an appreciation for beauty and, well, the ability to deal with a lot of shedding. There's a somewhat amusing anecdote about a particularly spoiled Persian owned by a wealthy London family during Victoria's reign. The cat, named Prince Albert, naturally, was said to have his own personal servant who was solely responsible for brushing his fur and ensuring that he had a constant supply of fresh cream. I mean, honestly, Prince Albert, you legend. You set a new standard for feline pampering. It's inspiring, isn't it? We often think of Queen Victoria as this stern, unsmiling figure. But imagine her with a Persian curled up on her lap, softly purring. It humanizes her, doesn't it? It reminds us that even the most powerful people have their vulnerabilities, their affections, their moments of utter adoration for a fluffy, four-legged creature. And she gave this love for cats a platform that we are still enjoying today, in one form or another. If that Persian Prince Albert were alive today, imagine the Instagram influence he would hold. And here's a thought to ponder as you drift off to sleep: what if Queen Victoria had been a dog person? What if she had championed the cause of, say, the bulldog? Would we be talking about the rise of bulldog fancy, instead of the cat fancy? Would the world be a different, perhaps less, haughty place? Okay, maybe not. But it's fun to imagine, isn't it? It is. Trust me. So, the next time you see a particularly regal-looking cat, remember Queen Victoria. Remember her passion, her influence, her unwavering belief in the power of a good purr. She truly helped to shape the modern cat world, one fluffy Persian at a time. And for that, we, and especially our feline companions, owe her a debt of gratitude. Even if they're too busy napping to acknowledge it. Sleep tight, sweet dreams, and may your night be filled with the gentle purrs of contented kitties. And, if you happen to have a Persian, maybe give it an extra brush tonight. Just for Queen Victoria. Alright, settle in, settle in. Let's talk about cats. Specifically, let's talk about when cats went from being, cats, stalking mice in barns and occasionally batting at your dangling shoelaces, to being, show cat star. Pampered furballs judged on their impeccable grooming and pedigree. Imagine, if you will, Victorian England. You're strolling through London, perhaps a little smog clings to your tweed coat, the air thick with the smell of coal smoke and, well, probably a whole lot of other things we'd rather not dwell on. Queen Victoria is on the throne, the British Empire is booming, and everyone's obsessed with categorizing and classifying everything. Plants, insects, geological formations, and now, apparently, cats. It's 1871. You hear whispers, hushed, excited whispers, about something extraordinary happening at the Crystal Palace. Not another exhibition of industry, no, something fluffier. You feel a pull. You follow the growing crowd, the murmur of anticipation building, and find yourself at the very first organized cat show. You step inside, and the air is different. A lot less smoggy, definitely. Maybe a hint of lavender. And, is that catnip? The Crystal Palace, normally filled with displays of ironwork and exotic ferns, has been transformed into a feline paradise. Or perhaps, a feline prison, depending on how the cats feel about being stared at by hundreds of bewildered Victorians. Historians still argue whether the cats were thrilled or horrified by the spectacle. There they are, row upon row of meticulously groomed felines, each perched, or, more likely, attempting to perch, on a velvet cushion. Persian cats with their luxurious, flowing fur. Siamese cats with their striking blue eyes and elegant points. Manx cats with remarkably little tail. You lean in, peering at the judging cards placed before each cage. Best of breed? Finest long-haired? The sheer audacity of it all. The man behind this spectacle, the mastermind of meows, is none other than Harrison Weir. A name that probably doesn't ring a bell for most, but in the world of cat fancy, he's basically the godfather. Weir was an artist, a writer, and a devoted animal lover. He saw beauty and individuality in these creatures, and he believed they deserved to be celebrated. And so, he brought together cats of all shapes, sizes, and breeds, or at least, what passed for breeds back then, to compete for prizes and bragging rights. You notice Weir himself, bustling around with a clipboard and a magnifying glass, examining each cat with the intense scrutiny of a diamond appraiser. He's a serious man, clearly dedicated to his craft. But even he can't help but crack a smile as a particularly fluffy Persian sneezes directly into his face. I mean, it's hard to stay serious when face to face with fluff. Now, the idea of judging cats might seem a bit arbitrary. But Weir was determined to bring some order to the chaos. He established standards for each breed, outlining the ideal coat length, eye color, and body type. He even wrote a book, Our Cats and All About Them, which became the Bible of the early cat fancy. You might call it the definitive work on feline beauty, but I would call it a book about cats. And what constituted beauty in a cat, back then? Well, things were a little different. For example, blue-eyed white cats were highly prized, even though many of them were deaf. Because, hey, who needs hearing when you look that good? You wander through the crowds, eavesdropping on conversations. Some people are genuinely fascinated, marveling at the variety of breeds. Others are clearly baffled, wondering what all the fuss is about. "It's just a cat," you hear one gentleman grumble. "What's all the excitement about?" But even he can't help but be drawn in by the sheer spectacle of it all. The Crystal Palace is full of purrs. The show isn't just about aesthetics, though. It's also about promoting responsible breeding. We're hoped that by establishing standards, he could encourage breeders to produce healthier, happier cats. Of course, the reality was a bit more complicated. Some breeders were more interested in winning prizes than in ethical breeding practices. But hey, you know, baby steps, right? You observe a judge poking and prodding a particularly grumpy-looking tabby. The cat responds by swatting at the judge's hand with impressive speed. The judge, unfazed, simply notes something on his clipboard. You shudder to think what the cat's chances are now. Among the attendees, you spot a familiar face, Beatrix Potter. Yes, that Beatrix Potter, the author of Peter Rabbit. She was a keen observer of nature, and she was also a huge fan of cats. She even bred and showed her own cats, including a Siamese named, well, it's not important. But she's just as captivated by the scene before you as you are. The first cat show wasn't just a one-off event. It sparked a craze for cat breeding and showing that spread throughout Britain and eventually to the rest of the world. Cat clubs sprang up, cat shows became more frequent, and suddenly, everyone wanted a pedigree Persian lounging on their Persian rug. And let's be honest, who doesn't want a luxurious feline companion? I mean, they're fluffy, they're independent, and they're masters of the art of passive-aggressive affection. You can see why the Victorians were so smitten. But here's a little quirky tidbit for you. While Weir is credited with organizing the first official cat show, there were earlier, less formal gatherings of cat enthusiasts. One such gathering took place in Maine, USA, in the 1860s, where local farmers showed off their prized mousers. These weren't exactly glamorous affairs, but they demonstrated that people had been admiring and comparing cats long before Weir came along. So you might say, in a roundabout way, the first cat show wasn't actually in England. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so they showed off cats. What's the big deal? Well, the cat show was a pivotal moment in the history of human-animal relationships. It marked a shift from viewing cats as simply utilitarian creatures, mousers and ratters, to seeing them as companions and objects of beauty. It also helped to establish the concept of breeds, which has had a profound impact on the way we understand and interact with cats, and dogs, and horses, and pretty much every other domesticated animal. You take a moment to appreciate a particularly magnificent Maine Coon. It's huge, fluffy, and looks like it could take down a small dog. You wonder what Harrison Weir would think of this creature. Would he approve? Or would he find it a bit too much? One thing's for sure, it all goes back to the Victorians' obsession with categorization. But it's also about something deeper, our innate desire to connect with animals. Whether you're admiring a perfectly groomed Persian or a scruffy street cat, there's something undeniably appealing about these creatures. They're a reminder that life is full of simple pleasures. A warm lap, a gentle purr, a well-timed headbutt. The cat show just took that to a whole new, slightly absurd, level. You start to feel a little weary, though. The crowds, the noise, the sheer concentration of feline energy, it's all a bit overwhelming. You decide to head out, leaving the pampered pusses behind. As you step back into the London smog, you can't help but smile. The world of cat fancy might seem a bit silly, a bit extravagant, even a bit catty. But it's also a testament to our enduring love for these mysterious and captivating creatures. I mean, it's like the Westminster Dog Show but with more attitude and less drool. You wonder, as you make your way home, what Harrison Weir would think of the modern cat show scene. Would he be proud of what he started? Or would he be horrified by the elaborate grooming techniques and the intense competition? You'll never know. Historians still argue about the lasting impact of the cat show, some claiming it was a harmless bit of Victorian eccentricity, others arguing that it fundamentally changed our relationship with cats. I think somewhere in there, is a whole other episode. But for now, you're thinking about your own cat at home. Maybe you should give them a little extra attention tonight. A good brushing, a tasty treat, and perhaps a brief attempt to teach them to pose like a best-in-show winner. Although, let's be honest, they'll probably just yawn in your face. Okay, settle in, friend. Let's get cozy and delve into, well, the surprisingly intense world of early cat breeding. It's a world where fur mattered more than, let's be honest, it probably should have. Imagine yourself, it's the late 19th century. You're not quite sure what a meme is, but you are deeply invested in your Persian's exceptionally fluffy tail. You see, you're part of a growing movement, the quest for the perfect pedigree cat. You find yourself at a cat show, and the air is thick with perfume, anxious meows, and the hushed whispers of breeders comparing notes. You gently open your cat's cage, and fluff their fur just so, like you're presenting a priceless gem, because in a way, to you, they are. These early cat shows, mostly in Britain at first, are the proving grounds. It's where you see which feline features are in favor, which lines are considered superior, and whether your own little fluff ball measures up. You note with a practiced eye the judge, scrutinizing everything from ear placement to coat texture. You hold your breath. The concept of breed standards is relatively new, you understand. Before, a cat was just a cat. Maybe it was good at catching mice, maybe it was pretty, but there wasn't some codified list of criteria dictating its worth. Now, thanks largely to the efforts of figures like Harrison Weir, a man now considered the father of the cat fancy, these standards exist. Weir, an artist and cat lover, organized one of the first major cat shows at the Crystal Palace in London in 1871. He also wrote one of the earliest comprehensive books on cats, complete with breed descriptions and illustrations. You even have a copy back at your place. These standards, you come to understand, are designed to create a picture of the ideal specimen for each breed. The perfect Persian, for instance, would have a round face, short body, and a long, flowing coat. The perfect Siamese would have striking blue almond-shaped eyes and distinct color points. It all feels a bit rigid, doesn't it? Like trying to force nature into a very specific box. But you play along. After all, you want your cat to be a champion. This drive for perfection leads to some interesting practices, wouldn't you say? You might hear whispers of breeders carefully selecting mates based on minute details, even resorting to inbreeding to solidify certain traits. It's a risky game, of course. Inbreeding can amplify desirable characteristics, but it can also bring out hidden genetic problems. But, hey, no pain, no gain, right? Joke number 1, just testing if you're still awake. The development of these breed standards also raises some tricky ethical questions. Historians still argue whether the focus on pedigree cats represents a genuine appreciation for feline beauty or simply a form of Victorian-era social climbing and conspicuous consumption. Think about it, owning a prize-winning Persian becomes a status symbol, a way to show off your wealth and refined taste. It's like having the fanciest carriage or the most elaborately decorated drawing room, but it meows. You overhear someone at the cat show commenting on how some breeds are prized for traits that actively harm the cat. Take the Persian, for example. That adorably flat face. It can lead to breathing problems and dental issues. That luxuriously long coat. It requires constant grooming to prevent painful mats. It's kind of like admiring someone solely for their beauty while ignoring their constant suffering, if you ask me. But that's where the pedigree comes in. You start to meticulously trace the lineage of your cats. Each generation is documented, each ancestor carefully considered. You keep copious notes in your own little ledger, like a furry accountant. It's all in the hope of proving that your cat descends from the right stock. Think of it as cat aristocracy. And this is where the concept of a stud book becomes crucial. These books, maintained by cat fancy organizations, serve as official records of pedigrees. They're like the family trees of the cat world, documenting generations of breeding. Getting your cat registered in a stud book is like getting them knighted, except instead of a sword, they get a certificate, and maybe a can of salmon. The Cat Fanciers Association, CFA, formed in the early 20th century, became a major player in this, solidifying the importance of pedigrees in the American cat fancy. You find yourself drawn into the political side of the cat fancy too. Different organizations emerge, each with their own breed standards and stud books. This creates a bit of rivalry and even some drama. You'll hear breeders arguing heatedly about which organization's standards are correct, or which stud book is the most accurate. It's like a catty, get it, version of academic infighting. Honestly, sometimes you feel like you need a degree in feline politics just to keep up. You begin to notice some of the, shall we say, less scrupulous practices that pop up in this quest for purebred lineage. Whispers circulate about breeders falsifying records or passing off mixed-breed cats as purebreds. It's like the art world, but with more fur and fewer lawsuits. This can be quite hard to prove. It's your word against theirs, or rather, your cat's pedigree against theirs. The early days of cat breeding are also marked by a degree of, shall we say, scientific naivete. You might hear breeders attributing certain traits to utterly ridiculous causes. Like, for example, that a cat's coat color is influenced by the color of the walls in the cattery. Or that feeding a cat a certain type of food will magically enhance its temperament. It's like a bizarre blend of old wives' tales and wishful thinking. You yourself have heard someone claim that singing opera to their Siamese made them more intelligent. Joke number 2, I'm not sure about intelligence, but it probably drove the neighbors crazy. One of the quirky things you discover is the sheer variety of breeds that were being experimented with. Some of them, like the early British Shorthairs, eventually became well-established breeds. Others, like the now extinct Paisley cat, basically a Scottish fold with longer hair, faded into obscurity. It's a reminder that the cat fancy, like fashion, is subject to trends and changing tastes. You also can't help but notice the regional variations in breeding practices. In Britain, where the cat fancy first took hold, there was a strong emphasis on the aesthetic qualities of cats. In America, perhaps influenced by the country's can-do spirit, there was a greater focus on developing new and distinctive breeds. Think about it, the Maine Coon, with its rugged, working cat background, is a uniquely American creation. It reflects the pioneer spirit of the country, the idea that even a cat can be a self-reliant, hard-working individual. Of course, now they are basically pampered house cats, but the image remains. The relentless pursuit of purebred cats sometimes leads to unexpected consequences. You hear stories of rare or unusual cats being snatched up by breeders, almost to the point of extinction in their natural habitats. It's a stark reminder that even seemingly harmless hobbies can have a detrimental impact on the environment. You wonder if maybe you should just stick to rescuing strays. But it's not all about vanity and exploitation. You also witness genuine acts of kindness and dedication. You see breeders who pour their hearts and souls into caring for their cats, providing them with the best possible food, medical care, and affection. You also see the bonds that form between humans and their feline companions, bonds that transcend the superficiality of breed standards and pedigree charts. And they do genuinely love their cats. It's sweet, in a way. You think about the legacy of these early breeders. They laid the foundation for the modern cat fancy, for better or worse. They created breeds that continue to delight and fascinate cat lovers around the world. They also inadvertently created a system that can prioritize appearance over health and well-being. It's complicated, isn't it? You also realize that the very definition of purebred is a bit of a slippery concept. After all cats, regardless of breed, ultimately descend from a common ancestor, the African wildcat. So, in a sense, aren't all cats just variations on a theme? Joke number 3, like all humans are just variations of that one guy who ate the apple, except with more cat hair. Historians still argue whether the early focus on breed standards ultimately benefited or harmed the feline species. Did it lead to the development of healthier, more well-adjusted cats? Or did it simply create a system that perpetuates genetic problems and promotes superficial values? So, as you reflect on your experiences at the cat show, you find yourself feeling a mixture of admiration, amusement, and unease. You admire the dedication of the breeders, the beauty of the cats, and the passion of the cat fancy. You're amused by the eccentricities and the occasional absurdity of the whole scene. But you're also uneasy about the potential for exploitation, the emphasis on appearance over health, and the inherent artificiality of the entire enterprise. And ultimately, you decide you just really like cats, pedigree or not. And maybe, just maybe, you'll stick to rescuing strays after all. At least until your Persian wins Best in Show. Okay, settle in, settle in. Let's just snuggle into this topic, shall we? We're talking Persian cats today. Specifically, their journey to America. Can you feel that soft fur already? I can almost hear the gentle purr resonating through the ages. We've already traced their, shall we say, dubious origins back to, somewhere. Probably Persia. Maybe not. But now, you find yourself standing on the shores of a new world, ready to witness the arrival of fluff in its most sophisticated form. You trudge through the bustling ports of late 19th century America. Think New York, Boston, maybe even dipping down to the fancier parts of Charleston. The air smells of brine, coal smoke, and the faint, lingering scent of something vaguely fishy that you're actively trying to ignore. Around you, stevedores shout, carts rumble, and immigrants, wide-eyed with hope and trepidation, spill onto the docks. And amidst this chaotic ballet of industry and ambition, you see them, Persian cats. Not in droves, mind you. These aren't the feline hordes of the internet age. These are prized possessions, cherished companions, smuggled, probably, in the steamer trunks of wealthy travelers returning from their grand tours of Europe. Can you imagine opening your suitcase and instead of finding your lingerie, you're face to face with a wide-eyed Persian? Remember, the Victorian era was in full swing. And Victorians loved their status symbols. Think elaborate dresses, ornate furniture, and, of course, ridiculously fluffy cats. Owning a Persian was basically the 1890s equivalent of driving a Lamborghini, only much quieter, and less likely to get you pulled over. Historians still argue whether the cat's inherent beauty or its association with European aristocracy drove the breed's initial popularity in America. I'm putting my money on the fluff. One mainstream historical fact is that the Cat Fanciers Association, CFA, one of the oldest and most prestigious cat registries in the world, was founded in the United States in 1906. This was a crucial step in solidifying the Persian's place in American cat culture. Suddenly, there were standards, judges, prizes. You could now, officially, be the best Persian cat owner in the land. And who were these pioneering Persian owners? Well, predictably, they were the kind of people who had the time, money, and inclination to fuss over a creature that required almost daily grooming. Think socialites, industrialists, and the occasional eccentric artist. One particularly quirky tidbit involves a wealthy heiress who reportedly insisted on having her Persian cat's meals cooked by a professional chef. Honestly, relatable. We've all been there, right? Maybe not the chef part, but the wanting the best for your pet part. The early American Persians weren't quite the same as the ones you see lounging on Instagram today. They tended to have longer noses, smaller eyes, and a less, shall we say, squished appearance. They were also, generally speaking, healthier. The extreme features that are now sometimes prized in the show ring, the super flat faces, the excessively long fur, often come with a whole host of health problems. It's a constant battle between aesthetics and animal welfare. Something to think about as you scroll through those cute cat videos later. You wander into a fancy parlor, perhaps in a brownstone in Beacon Hill, and there it is, a Persian cat, draped languidly across a velvet cushion. The epitome of feline grace and indulgence. The lady of the house is cooing over it, brushing its fur with a silver comb. You can practically smell the lavender and hear the faint strains of a Chopin nocturne. This is the life. This is the Persian dream. But the Persian dream wasn't always sunshine and catnip. The breed faced challenges, just like any other immigrant group. There was competition from other popular breeds, like the Siamese and the Maine Coon. There were also issues of breed standards and how to define the perfect Persian. And, of course, there was the ever-present threat of disease. Let's not forget those were pre-vaccination days for many things, so even a simple cold could wipe out an entire cattery. One open scholarly debate revolves around the role of early cat shows in shaping the Persian breed. Did these shows promote healthy breeding practices, or did they inadvertently encourage the selection of extreme traits that ultimately harmed the cats? It's a real question of balancing the pursuit of beauty with the well-being of the animal. Now, here's a joke for you: why did the Persian cat cross the road? To get to the other side, in style. Another mainstream historical fact is that Persian cats became increasingly popular in the mid-20th century, thanks in part to their appearance in movies and advertisements. Think glamorous actresses posing with fluffy white Persians, or cartoon characters modeled after the breed's distinctive features. Suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of that Persian pie. Can you blame them? Look at those eyes. You find yourself in a suburban backyard in the 1950s. The air is filled with the aroma of barbecued burgers and the sound of children playing. And there, basking in the sun on a patio chair, is a Persian cat. It's no longer the exclusive preserve of the wealthy elite. It's a family pet, a beloved member of the household, a furry friend to curl up with on the couch while watching TV. One quirky or fringe tidbit involves the alleged healing powers of Persian cats. Some people believe that their fur could cure everything from rheumatism to melancholy. Now, I'm not saying that stroking a cat can't be therapeutic, but I'm also not about to start prescribing Persian cat rubs for serious medical conditions. Though, to be fair, that sounds a lot better than some of the actual medical advice floating around these days. The Persian cat's journey to America wasn't just a one-way trip. American breeders began to develop their own distinct lines, often focusing on specific traits like coat color or eye shape. This led to the creation of different types of Persians, each with its own unique appeal. Think of it as the feline equivalent of regional accents. You have your New England Persians, your Southern Belle Persians, well, you get the idea. You imagine yourself at a cat show, surrounded by a cacophony of meows and the judging eyes of seasoned breeders. The pressure is intense. The stakes are high. Your Persian is poised and preened to perfection. Is today the day you finally win that coveted Best in Show ribbon? The tension is thicker than a Persian's undercoat. Another open scholarly debate centers on the ethics of breeding Persian cats for specific aesthetic traits. Is it right to prioritize appearance over health and temperament? Or is it simply a matter of personal preference and consumer demand? It's a complex issue with no easy answers. It's a slippery slope from, "Aw, how cute," to, "Oh, that's kinda sad." And speaking of sad, let me throw in a light joke. What do you call a Persian cat that's also a detective? Sherlock Holmes. Okay, I know. I'll see myself out. But back to the Persians. Their story in America is one of adaptation, evolution, and enduring appeal. They've gone from being exotic status symbols to beloved family companions. They've weathered changing trends and faced numerous challenges. And they've emerged as one of the most popular and recognizable cat breeds in the world. You sit back, close your eyes, and imagine the softest, fluffiest Persian cat imaginable nestled in your lap. You stroke its fur, listen to its gentle purr, and feel all the stress of the day melt away. This is the Persian legacy. A legacy of beauty, grace, and unwavering companionship. A legacy that continues to unfold, one perfect moment at a time. One last mainstream historical fact: Persian cats continue to be a popular breed in America today, despite the increasing popularity of newer breeds. Their enduring appeal speaks to their timeless elegance and undeniable charm. And finally, one last quirky tidbit: did you know that some Persian cats are rumored to have a secret language? It's said that they can communicate with each other using subtle vocalizations and body language that humans can't detect. Maybe they're plotting world domination. Maybe they're just complaining about the lack of tuna. Who knows? Okay, settle in, make yourself comfortable. Maybe grab a cup of chamomile tea, or that weird fruit-flavored sparkling water you're so obsessed with. We're diving back in, and this part gets interesting. Think vintage Hollywood glamour meets a surprisingly robust livestock market. That's right, we're talking about the 20th century. You stroll into the early 1900s. Imagine sepia-toned photographs, the Model T Ford sputtering down dusty roads, and, yep, our breed, enjoying a bit of a renaissance. After all those close calls, all those near-extinction events we talked about, something started to shift. You see them popping up more and more, no longer just the prized possession of the wealthy elite. Now, here's a mainstream historical fact you probably already know: the early 20th century was a time of immense social and technological change. The world was shrinking, thanks to advancements in transportation and communication. And what does a shrinking world mean for a previously niche breed? Increased visibility. You're at a county fair, circa 1925. The air smells of popcorn and manure, a surprisingly potent combination, if you think about it. You hear the Oompa band playing a jaunty tune, and you see them being paraded around the show ring. Ribbons are awarded. Judges pontificate about conformation and temperament. They're suddenly fashionable. They're the it breed. What changed? Well, several things. For one, a few dedicated breeders, bless their cotton socks, really started to standardize the breed. They focused on desirable traits, like that elegant gait we've been admiring, and a consistently gentle temperament. They started keeping meticulous records, pedigrees that stretched back generations. Think of it like genealogy, but for four-legged fluffballs. And this is where things get a little quirky. There's a tale, whispered in hushed tones at breed conventions, yes, those are a real thing, about a particular breeder who supposedly used a complex system of astrological charts to determine the optimal breeding times. They swore it resulted in puppies with superior intelligence and showmanship. Now, I'm not saying it's true. But imagine the dedication. Or maybe just the eccentricity. You decide. The demand for these animals soared. They became status symbols, companions for the burgeoning middle class, and stars of, wait for it, early cinema. Can you imagine one of these creatures starring in a silent film? I kind of want to see that now. Someone get on that. You see them in advertisements, their fluffy tails wagging next to gleaming new cars and bottles of snake oil. Okay, maybe not everything from the early 20th century was glamorous. But the point is, they were everywhere. You couldn't escape them. And people loved it. It was their golden age of puppy love. The post-World War II era saw another surge in popularity. People were looking for comfort, for companionship, for a little bit of joy in a world that had just experienced unimaginable trauma. And what better way to find joy than with a furry friend who greets you at the door with unbridled enthusiasm? Plus, with the rise of suburbia, these dogs had sprawling lawns to frolic in. It was a match made in heaven. Or at least, in a Levittown. This is where the topic of modern breeding practices becomes unavoidable. It's a bit of a minefield, to be honest. On the one hand, responsible breeders work tirelessly to maintain the breed's health and integrity, carefully selecting breeding pairs to minimize the risk of genetic disorders. They conduct health screenings, participate in breed-specific clubs, and generally do their best to ensure that their puppies are happy and healthy. You're observing a modern breeder at work. She's meticulously examining a litter of puppies, checking their eyes, their ears, their teeth. She's asking questions about their parents, their grandparents, even their great-grandparents. She's obsessed, in the best possible way. She's a guardian of the breed, a curator of its genetic legacy. It's a labor of love, and it's expensive. But, on the other hand, there are less scrupulous breeders, and let's be honest, puppy mills, who prioritize profit over the well-being of their animals. They churn out puppies as quickly as possible, often without regard for their health or temperament. The result can be devastating: puppies with genetic defects, behavioral problems, and a whole host of other issues. This leads to a major open scholarly debate: to what extent has modern breeding shaped, and perhaps compromised, the health and well-being of the breed? Historians still argue whether the focus on specific physical traits has inadvertently led to a narrowing of the gene pool, making the breed more susceptible to certain diseases. Some argue that the pursuit of perfection has come at a cost. Others maintain that responsible breeding practices are essential for preserving the breed's unique qualities. It's a complex issue with no easy answers. You're attending a veterinary conference, listening to a panel of experts discuss the latest research on canine genetics. The debate is heated, the arguments passionate. There are graphs and charts, statistics and studies. It's enough to make your head spin. But one thing is clear: the future of the breed depends on our ability to balance the desire for specific traits with the need to maintain genetic diversity. Now, for a quirky tidbit. Did you know that there's a movement to reintroduce heritage lines into the breed? These are lines that have been carefully preserved, often by small, independent breeders, who have focused on maintaining the breed's original characteristics, rather than chasing the latest show ring trends. It's like a canine archaeological dig, uncovering the breed's roots. It's a bit like finding a vintage vinyl record in your attic, a reminder of a simpler time, when things were a little less polished, a little more authentic. And these heritage lines are considered to be more robust, with fewer of the genetic problems that plague some modern lines. So, maybe the answer to the breed's future lies in its past. You find yourself at a small, family-run farm, meeting a breeder who specializes in heritage lines. She tells you stories about her dogs, about their ancestors, about the challenges of preserving a piece of history. She shows you old photographs, faded letters, and handwritten notes. It's like stepping back in time. And here's a light joke for you: why did the dog cross the playground? To get to the seesaw. Okay, I admit, it's not my best work. But I'm tired. You're probably tired too. The breed's popularity continues to ebb and flow, subject to the whims of fashion and the vagaries of the market. They've starred in commercials, graced the covers of magazines, and even had their own reality TV shows. I'm not kidding. They've been everything from pampered pets to working dogs, from fashion accessories to beloved family members. And through it all, they've remained remarkably resilient. They've survived wars, economic depressions, and the ever-shifting sands of popular culture. They've adapted to new environments, new lifestyles, and new roles. They're survivors, these creatures. They're the canine equivalent of cockroaches, but, you know, fluffy and adorable. You're watching a documentary about the breed, marveling at its adaptability. You see them herding sheep in the mountains, cuddling with children in the suburbs, and visiting patients in hospitals. They're chameleons, capable of fitting into any situation. It's truly remarkable. But what does the future hold? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? With the rise of designer breeds and the increasing awareness of animal welfare issues, the landscape of dog breeding is changing rapidly. The breed will need to adapt once again, to find new ways to stay relevant and to ensure its continued survival. The mainstream historical fact here is simple: the breed's future hinges on responsible breeding practices, public education, and a commitment to the well-being of all animals. We need to support ethical breeders, educate ourselves about the breed's specific needs, and advocate for stronger animal welfare laws. You're attending a town hall meeting, listening to passionate debates about animal rights. People are speaking out against puppy mills, advocating for stricter breeding regulations, and demanding better care for animals in shelters. It's inspiring to see so many people fighting for a better world for our furry friends. Now, for a final light joke. What do you call a dog magician? A labracadabrator. I promise, that's the last one. I need a nap. You can see that it has truly been a remarkable journey, filled with ups and downs, triumphs and tribulations. The breed has come a long way from its humble origins as a working dog in the countryside. It has conquered the world, won the hearts of millions, and become a symbol of companionship and love. And as you look at them, snoozing peacefully at your feet, you can't help but feel a sense of gratitude. A thank you to these resilient, adaptable, and utterly charming creatures who have enriched our lives in so many ways. Alright, settle in, settle in. Let's get comfy. Maybe grab a weighted blanket. We're diving deep, deeper than you thought possible, into the world of health. Specifically, the health of your soon-to-be maybe best friend. Yes, we're talking about the potential challenges that can crop up in purebred dogs. Now, I know, this isn't exactly the fluffiest topic. But trust me, knowing what you might be up against is way better than being blindsided by a vet bill that rivals your student loan debt. Think of it as responsible pet ownership ASMR. So, close your eyes, or keep them open, whatever works for you, and just breathe. We'll start with the hips. Hip dysplasia, the bane of many a large breed. You probably know the drill. The hip joint doesn't quite fit together snugly, leading to instability, pain, and eventually, arthritis. Imagine trying to wear shoes that are constantly a size too big. Annoying, right? Now imagine that happening with every step you take for the next decade or so. Not a fun time. Prevention is key here, which means choosing a responsible breeder who screens their dogs and understands the heritability of this condition. Now, I'm not saying all dogs with hip dysplasia are doomed to a life of misery. Early detection, weight management, and appropriate exercise can make a world of difference. Think of it as giving them a really good orthotic insert for their hips. Speaking of big breeds and skeletal issues, let's waltz over to elbow dysplasia, a similar, yet, well, elbow-y problem. Again, we're talking about a malformed joint, this time in the elbow. It can cause pain, lameness, and, you guessed it, arthritis. It's like their little doggy elbows have a constant case of tendinitis. You know, that sharp pain when you twist your hand just so. Elbow dysplasia is common and frustrating. Like hip dysplasia, responsible breeding practices play a crucial role in minimizing the risk. And again, early intervention and management can significantly improve the quality of life for affected dogs. So many things to keep in mind when you're planning to get your furry friend, huh? You can't even put a price on having the right info. Now, you might be thinking, okay, joints, got it. What else could possibly go wrong? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're just getting started. Let's talk about bloat, or, more formally, gastric dilatation volvulus, GDV. Sounds terrifying, right? It kind of is. It's a condition where the stomach fills with gas and then twists on itself. Imagine a balloon animal gone horribly, horribly wrong. This is an emergency situation that requires immediate veterinary attention. Symptoms include restlessness, pacing, drooling, and a distended abdomen. Some historians still argue whether deep-chested breeds are automatically predisposed to bloat, but most veterinary doctors agree that it's a very high possibility. The exact cause of bloat is still not fully understood, but factors like eating too quickly, eating large meals, and exercising after eating can increase the risk. So, what can you do? Feed smaller, more frequent meals. Use a slow feeder bowl. And avoid strenuous activity immediately after eating. It's the canine equivalent of waiting 30 minutes before swimming after a big lunch. Remember when your mom used to say that? Good times. On a side note, did you know that bloat is a leading cause of death in large and giant breed dogs? Scary stuff. Let's move on to another potential downer, eye problems. Progressive retinal atrophy, PRA, is a degenerative eye disease that eventually leads to blindness. It's like their internal dimmer switch is stuck on the off position. There's no cure for PRA, but genetic testing can identify carriers, helping breeders make informed decisions. Vision might worsen at night, or in dimly lit areas. While the dogs themselves can get used to being blind, it can be devastating for the owners. Now, here's a weird one, distichiasis. It's when extra eyelashes grow in the wrong place on the eyelid, often rubbing against the eye and causing irritation. Imagine having a rogue eyelash constantly poking you in the eyeball. Annoying, right? It's usually treated with surgery, where the offending lashes are removed. It's a relatively common condition, and while it's not life-threatening, it can definitely impact your dog's quality of life. There is still some scholarly debate about whether distichiasis causes discomfort to all dogs. Some dogs do not even notice the extra eyelashes. While we are in the eye area, we can't forget to chat about cataracts, and while cataracts can happen for a variety of reasons, some dogs are genetically predisposed to getting them earlier in life. Now, I'm not talking about the "my grandpa wears Coke bottle glasses" kind of cataracts. These can be pretty serious, causing blindness. The lens inside the eye becomes cloudy, blocking light from reaching the retina. It's like looking through a foggy window. Cataracts can be treated surgically, restoring vision, but early detection is key. In the grand scheme of things, the procedure isn't terribly invasive, however, it is expensive. Okay, enough with the eyes. Let's dive into hearts. Dilated cardiomyopathy, DCM, is a condition where the heart muscle becomes weak and enlarged, making it harder for the heart to pump blood effectively. It's like the heart is trying to bench press a refrigerator. Symptoms can include fatigue, coughing, and difficulty breathing. DCM can be caused by genetics, diet, or other underlying conditions. Treatment typically involves medication to help the heart function more efficiently. The American Kennel Club has said that there is no reliable method to test for DCM, making it hard to avoid. And what about hypothyroidism? That's when the thyroid gland doesn't produce enough thyroid hormone. It's like their internal thermostat is broken, and they're stuck in the low-energy mode. Symptoms can include weight gain, lethargy, hair loss, and skin problems. Hypothyroidism is usually treated with medication that replaces the missing thyroid hormone. It's a relatively common condition, and with proper management, dogs with hypothyroidism can live long and healthy lives. As an interesting historical fact, hypothyroidism in dogs was one of the first endocrine disorders to be recognized and treated in veterinary medicine. Okay, so we've covered joints, eyes, hearts, and thyroids. What else is lurking in the shadows? Well, let's talk about cancer. Sadly, cancer is a leading cause of death in dogs, just like it is in humans. Osteosarcoma, or bone cancer, is a particularly aggressive type that often affects large breeds. Lymphoma, another common type of cancer, affects the lymphatic system. Early detection and treatment are crucial for improving outcomes. So, regular checkups and being aware of any unusual lumps or bumps are essential. Did you know that dogs were used in early cancer research? Yes, some of our best friends were used to study tumors and treatments. It's a sobering thought, but their contributions have helped advance our understanding of this disease. And finally, let's talk about allergies. Allergies. The bane of everyone's existence, canine and human alike. Food allergies, environmental allergies, flea allergies, the list goes on and on. Symptoms can include itching, scratching, skin rashes, and digestive upset. Diagnosing allergies can be a bit of a process, often involving food trials and allergy testing. Treatment typically involves avoiding allergens, managing symptoms with medication, and sometimes, allergy shots. I once knew a dog that was allergic to grass. Seriously. He had to wear little booties every time he went outside. Talk about a high-maintenance pup. Fun fact, one fringe theory states that excessive sterilization of the environment could be a contributing factor to allergies, as it doesn't let the dog develop a strong immune system. So, there you have it. A not-so-brief overview of some of the potential health issues that you might encounter. Now, before you run screaming for the hills, remember that not all dogs will develop these problems. And with responsible breeding, proper care, and regular veterinary checkups, you can significantly reduce the risk and improve the quality of life for your furry friend. I know all this information can seem overwhelming, but knowledge is power. And now you're armed with the knowledge to make informed decisions and provide the best possible care for your canine companion. Remember, it's like they say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Or, in this case, maybe a whole bag of dog treats. Anyway, it's late, and I think it's time to sign off and say goodnight. Alright, hey there, welcome back, settle in, get comfy. Let's dive into the Persian cat, shall we? Yeah, you know, that fluffy, flat-faced ball of opinion. Picture this, you're scrolling through Instagram, late at night, right? The algorithm, bless its little silicon heart, has figured out you're a sucker for cute animals. Suddenly, bam! There it is. A Persian cat, lounging dramatically on a velvet cushion, bathed in the soft glow of a strategically placed lamp. It's probably got more followers than you, I know, it's tragic. It's staring into the middle distance, probably contemplating the existential dread of being perpetually groomed. Or maybe it's just thinking about tuna. Who knows? But that, my friend, is the Persian cat in pop culture today. A symbol. A meme. A furry little influencer. They are everywhere. From commercials to music videos, their luxurious fur and distinctive features are used to convey a sense of elegance, opulence, and sometimes, just pure, unadulterated sass. You see, the Persian cat has a long and fascinating history, one that stretches back centuries. Some people say they were descended from long-haired cats in Persia, modern-day Iran, as far back as the 16th century. Others say they actually originated in Turkey, a theory supported by their genetic similarities to the Turkish Angora. Historians still argue whether the modern Persian is a direct descendant of these ancient cats or a more recent hybrid created by European breeders. Personally, I like to think they're time travelers. Just popping in for a nap and a head scratch. But regardless of their precise origins, they quickly became favorites of European royalty and aristocracy. Queen Victoria herself owned several Persians, solidifying their status as the cat of choice for the upper crust. You can imagine her, knitting needles clicking away, surrounded by a fluffy white cloud of purring Persians. And, as the cat became more popular, so did their role in popular media, but in a way that kind of makes them a little weird. Think about it. You're watching a movie. A thriller, maybe. The villain, naturally, lives in a mansion. Dark wood, lots of shadows, maybe a secret passage or two. And invariably, perched on the arm of his leather chair, there's a Persian cat. Usually white, maybe a smoky gray. It's a visual shorthand, a signal to you, the viewer. It screams, this guy is rich, probably evil, and definitely has someone else clean his litter box. The association is so strong that you almost expect the cat to deliver a Bond villain monologue. Ah, Mr. Bond, I've been expecting you, and who's this I smell? A mutt. Why is that, though? Why are Persian cats so often cast as the sidekicks of the sinister? Is it the inherent air of disdain in their perpetually smushed faces? Is it the way their fur seems to ripple with an almost supernatural stillness? Or is it simply because they look like they wouldn't hesitate to sell you out for a can of salmon pâté? Okay, you have a point. It's worth noting that their association with villainy isn't always a negative thing. Think about Blofeld from the James Bond films. Always stroking his white Persian, a symbol of his power and sophistication. It adds a layer of complexity to the character. In the film Austin Powers' Dr. Evil also had a cat with the same breed named Mr. Bigglesworth. It's a playful poke at the cliché, a way of saying, yes, we know this is a trope, but we're having fun with it. Speaking of fun, you cannot talk about Persian cats in pop culture without mentioning their unique appearance. Let's be honest, they're kind of weird looking, right? I mean, that flattened face. Those big, round eyes. It's like nature took a perfectly good cat and then sat on it. And, for some reason, they're particularly prone to having kidney diseases, which is kind of sad. But that very strangeness is part of their appeal. In a world of perfectly sculpted, photoshopped images, the Persian cat offers something different, a touch of the absurd. They are living, breathing, sometimes wheezing, embodiments of the uncanny valley. They're so cute they're almost unsettling. And that's precisely why people love them. They're, like, the anti-influencer. And don't get me started on the grooming. You know you have to brush them, like, twice a day or they turn into a matted hairball of regret. It's a whole thing. But, for some owners, it's a therapeutic ritual. A way of bonding with their furry overlords. A chance to whisper sweet nothings, or maybe just instructions on how to properly use the litter box. They've even become a staple in advertising. From cat food commercials to luxury goods, their image is used to sell everything from, well, cat food to high-end automobiles. They're the feline equivalent of George Clooney, instantly recognizable, effortlessly stylish, and always ready to lend their image to a good cause, or at least a hefty paycheck. Historians still argue whether a Persian cat has ever turned down a commercial. Okay, that's not true, nobody is arguing about that, but I would like to see that argument. But here's a weird fact for you, did you know that there's a breed of Persian cat called the teacup Persian? They're bred to be exceptionally small, often weighing less than 5 pounds. They look like fluffy little toys. And they're also incredibly controversial, because breeding for extreme smallness often leads to health problems. It's a reminder that our obsession with cuteness can sometimes have unintended consequences. It's like a tiny little ball of fluff has all of the same potential health issues as a large one. Beyond their roles in movies, commercials, and Instagram feeds, Persian cats have also found a place in music. Remember that Lil Bub, the internet-famous cat with the perpetually open mouth? Some say he was a Persian mix, which is debatable. He had a very strange and unique look, and his presence in the music industry highlighted how important it is for artists to connect with audiences through their own creative expression. And, even though Bub is no longer with us, his influence lives on. But back to Persians. Think about all the memes featuring them. The ones where they look perpetually annoyed. The ones where they're wearing tiny hats. The ones where they're photoshopped into famous paintings. They're endlessly memeable. And that's a testament to their enduring appeal. They're a blank canvas onto which we project our own anxieties, our own desires, our own quirky sense of humor. Ultimately, the Persian cat's enduring popularity in pop culture is a reflection of our own complex relationship with animals. We love them for their beauty, their companionship, and their ability to make us laugh. But we also sometimes exploit them for our own entertainment. It's a complicated dynamic, one that deserves careful consideration. So, the next time you see a Persian cat lounging dramatically in a movie, on a commercial, or on your Instagram feed, take a moment to appreciate its history, its quirks, and its place in our cultural landscape. And then, maybe, give your own cat a cuddle. Even if it's not a Persian. They deserve it. Speaking of which, did you know the most expensive cat ever sold was a Bengal cat that cost $42,000? Now that's what I call a cat burglar. And, hey, if you're feeling extra adventurous, why not try grooming a Persian? It's probably not as bad as wrangling a badger, but it will definitely give you a newfound respect for professional pet groomers. You might even find a hidden talent for feline hairstyling. Who knows? Okay, that's all for now. I'm going to find a cat. Well, maybe not. See you next time. Alright, settle in, let's get comfy. Dim the lights, maybe light a candle that smells like lavender and old books, because, let's be honest, who doesn't love that smell? Today, you are about to become intimately familiar with the grooming and care regime of a truly regal creature, the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Yes, that Cavalier. The one you see gracing the laps of countesses in period dramas, the one with the soulful eyes that could melt glaciers, the one whose fur requires slightly more attention than you might think. Now, don't get me wrong, these little darlings are absolutely worth it. But let's be realistic. That silky, flowing coat doesn't maintain itself. You're not just going to wake up one morning to a perfectly coiffed canine companion. No, no. This requires dedication. Commitment. A willingness to invest in a really good de-shedding brush. We're talking serious equipment here. Let's start with the basics, brushing. You're going to want to brush your Cavalier, regularly. Like, every other day regularly. Maybe even daily if you're feeling ambitious. Think of it as a little meditation session for both of you. A moment of zen amidst the chaos of modern life. Just you, your Cavalier, and a brush. Unless, of course, your Cavalier is like mine and considers brushing a form of medieval torture. Then it's more like a wrestling match set to the soundtrack of pitiful whimpers. Why all the brushing, you ask? Well, Cavaliers have a double coat. A soft, dense undercoat and a longer, silkier outer coat. And both of those coats shed. Oh boy, do they shed. You'll find their fur on your clothes, on your furniture, in your food, you'll find it everywhere. You'll start seeing it in your dreams. You might even start suspecting that you are a Cavalier in disguise, shedding your human skin to reveal the fluffy being within. So, invest in a good quality slicker brush and a metal comb. The slicker brush will help to remove loose fur and prevent mats, while the metal comb will help you to find and detangle any knots that might be lurking beneath the surface. And remember, be gentle. These little guys are sensitive souls. You don't want to accidentally pull their fur or irritate their skin. Unless you enjoy being on the receiving end of the Cavalier stare of disapproval, which, trust me, is withering. Now, let's talk about bathing. Cavaliers don't need to be bathed too often. Overbathing can strip their coat of its natural oils, leaving it dry and brittle. Once every 2 to 3 weeks is usually sufficient, unless, of course, your Cavalier has decided to take a mud bath in the garden. Then all bets are off. You might need to hose them down in the backyard before they even set paw inside the house. When you do bathe them, use a good quality dog shampoo that is specifically formulated for their coat type. Human shampoo is a no-no. It's too harsh and can dry out their skin. And remember to rinse thoroughly. Shampoo residue can cause skin irritation. No one wants a Cavalier with itchy skin. That's just a recipe for disaster. And speaking of ears. Cavalier ears are a thing of beauty. Long, flowing, and undeniably elegant. But they're also prone to infections. All that floppiness means limited air circulation, creating a warm, moist environment that bacteria just adore. So, you need to clean their ears regularly. Once a week should do the trick. Use a gentle ear cleaning solution that is specifically designed for dogs. Never use cotton swabs. You risk pushing debris further into the ear canal. Instead, saturate a cotton ball with the cleaning solution and gently wipe the visible part of the ear. Don't go poking around inside. If you notice any redness, swelling, or discharge, consult your veterinarian. Ear infections are no fun for anyone involved. Now, dental hygiene. This is where things get really interesting. Cavaliers are prone to dental problems, thanks to their adorable, but slightly overcrowded, mouths. Those little teeth get awfully cozy in there, leading to plaque buildup and, eventually, dental disease. So, you need to brush their teeth regularly. Ideally, every day. I know. It sounds like a lot of work. But trust me, it's worth it. Dental disease can lead to all sorts of health problems, including heart disease. Plus, no one wants to be on the receiving end of Cavalier breath. Use a dog-specific toothbrush and toothpaste. Human toothpaste is toxic to dogs. And don't try to use your finger. Trust me on this one. You will regret it. Start slowly and gradually get your Cavalier used to the process. Make it a positive experience with lots of praise and treats. Maybe even turn it into a little game. Who can resist a Cavalier with pearly whites? And speaking of treats, let's talk about diet. Cavaliers are not particularly fussy eaters. They will happily eat anything that is put in front of them. This can be a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, you don't have to worry about them being picky eaters. On the other hand, you need to be careful about what you feed them. Cavaliers are prone to weight gain, so it's important to feed them a high-quality dog food and to monitor their portions. Avoid giving them too many treats or table scraps. A little here and there won't hurt, but a steady diet of processed human food is a recipe for disaster. Opt for healthy snacks like carrots or apple slices. They'll love them. Probably. Okay, maybe not as much as they love that piece of steak you dropped on the floor, but still. And let's not forget about exercise. Cavaliers were originally bred as lap dogs, but they still need regular exercise to stay healthy and happy. A daily walk or two should be sufficient. They also enjoy playing fetch and running around in the park. Just be careful not to overdo it, especially in hot weather. Cavaliers are prone to overheating. Now, let's delve into some of the more, shall we say, esoteric aspects of Cavalier care. We're talking about the things you won't find in your standard dog care manual. The things that only a true Cavalier aficionado would know. For example, did you know that Cavaliers were a favorite breed of King Charles II? In fact, it's said that he was so enamored with his Cavaliers that he decreed they should be allowed in all public places, including Parliament. Can you imagine? A pack of fluffy Cavaliers running amok through the halls of power. Now that's democracy in action. It makes you wonder if the course of British history might have been subtly altered by a well-placed Cavalier nudge. Historians still argue whether Charles's fondness was genuine or a political move. And then there's the fringe theory that Cavaliers are actually tiny, furry time travelers, sent back in time to spread joy and unconditional love. I mean, have you ever looked into those eyes? They seem to hold the secrets of the universe. Plus, they always seem to know when you're feeling down and need a cuddle. Coincidence? I think not. But back to reality, slightly less whimsically, one often overlooked aspect of Cavalier care is their mental well-being. These dogs are incredibly sensitive and thrive on companionship. Leaving them alone for extended periods can lead to separation anxiety and destructive behavior. Remember, you are their world. Their sun. Their reason for existing. Okay, maybe that's a bit dramatic, but you get the idea. They need you. So, make sure to spend plenty of time with your Cavalier. Play with them, cuddle them, talk to them, even if they don't understand a word you're saying. They'll appreciate it more than you know. And if you have to leave them alone, provide them with plenty of toys and distractions. A Kong filled with peanut butter is always a good option. Finally, let's talk about health concerns. Cavaliers are prone to a few hereditary health problems, including mitral valve disease, syringomyelia, and hip dysplasia. It's important to be aware of these conditions and to have your Cavalier regularly checked by a veterinarian. Early detection and treatment can significantly improve their quality of life. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds like a lot of work. And you're right, it is. But owning a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel is not just about having a pet. It's about welcoming a member into your family. A furry, four-legged member who will shower you with unconditional love and bring joy to your life every single day. And isn't that worth a little extra brushing? I mean, think of the Instagram photos. You could become a Cavalier influencer. That's gotta be worth something. Remember that Cavaliers weren't always the lap-sized companions we know today. They were originally larger, more athletic dogs used for hunting. It's almost comical to imagine these fluffy darlings chasing after game, isn't it? Almost like picturing a poodle leading a Viking raid. Now that's a movie I'd pay to see. And, as a slightly random historical aside, let's consider the name. Cavalier refers to the supporters of King Charles I during the English Civil War. These were often noblemen and landowners who favored a more traditional monarchy. So, in a way, owning a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel is like having a tiny, fluffy symbol of royal allegiance in your home. Plus, you get to say, Cavalier, a lot, which sounds terribly important, and I might add, is quite fun. So, there you have it. A comprehensive guide to the grooming and care of a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. It's a journey. A commitment. A slightly fur-covered adventure. But if you're up for the challenge, you'll be rewarded with a lifetime of love, companionship, and the occasional embarrassing photo opportunity. What's not to love? Okay, so you've made it to the end of our little Persian cat odyssey. Congratulations, you deserve a catnap. And speaking of naps, let's meander into the lasting legacy of these fluffy overlords, shall we? You find yourself, perhaps, curled up on a plush velvet chaise lounge, much like one a pampered Persian might deign to grace with its presence. The late afternoon sun casts long, lazy shadows across the room, and the air is thick with the scent of lavender and, dare I say, a hint of catnip. You can almost hear the gentle purr resonating in your very bones. But wait, don't drift off just yet. We still have a perfectly good story to finish. You consider the Persians' enduring appeal. It's more than just fluff, you know. It's a carefully cultivated image, a masterclass in feline PR spanning centuries. Think about it, even in our relentlessly modern world, where everything is sleek and streamlined and algorithms dictate our every whim, the Persian still reigns supreme in the realm of luxury cat breeds. Why is that? What sorcery is afoot? You might think it's just about the looks. The impossibly long fur, the adorably squished face, the soulful, expressive eyes, and that tail. Oh, that magnificent tail. It's like a feathery question mark, perpetually asking, more treats, please. But it's deeper than that, isn't it? It's about history, about perception, about the very idea of catness itself. You see, the Persian cat has become a cultural shorthand for elegance, sophistication, and a certain, well, regal air. It's the cat that James Bond's nemesis, Blofeld, strokes menacingly while plotting world domination. It's the cat that graces the laps of fictional heiresses in old movies. It's the cat that somehow, even when sprawled ungracefully across the keyboard, manages to look impossibly chic. You remember hearing that Queen Victoria owned several Persian cats. And honestly, that makes total sense. I mean, who wouldn't want a fluffy, four-legged embodiment of luxury lounging around their palace? The very image. You can just picture Her Majesty, sipping tea and being silently judged by a judgmental fluffball with impeccable breeding. Historically speaking, royal endorsements, such as Queen Victoria's affection, have always been a huge boost in popularity for breeds. You're also struck by how easily the Persian transitioned from the royal courts of Europe to the living rooms of suburbia. It went from being a symbol of extreme wealth and privilege to a beloved family pet, without ever really losing its aura of sophistication. It's like the cat version of a celebrity who somehow manages to stay grounded, despite having a mansion and a personal chef. You know, except with more shedding. Historians still argue whether the modern Persian truly descends directly from the long-haired cats of Persia, or if other breeds like the Angora played a more significant role in its development. It's a feline genealogical mystery. A fluffy, purring enigma wrapped in layers of luxurious fur. You chuckle quietly at the thought, almost dislodging a dust bunny that was making its home amongst the plush cushions. You can almost feel the weight of the Persian's legacy settling around you like a warm blanket. And, to be honest, that's exactly what a Persian cat would want. To be the blanket. You wonder if there's a Persian cat union. Probably with very good dental. You suddenly recall something rather peculiar. Legend has it that some breeders in the early 20th century actually tried to selectively breed Persians to have even flatter faces, to the point where the cats had difficulty breathing and eating. Can you imagine? It's like saying, hey, this cat is already ridiculously adorable, let's make it even more ridiculously adorable, but also significantly less functional. Thankfully, ethical breeders stepped in to reverse this trend and prioritize the health and well-being of these fluffy darlings. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How far will we go for beauty? Or, in this case, for maximum squish factor? You marvel at their staying power. Through shifting trends and evolving standards, the Persian has remained a constant. Consider that its rise to prominence coincided with the Victorian era, a period of unprecedented social and technological change. You might find this hard to believe, but back then, cat shows were actually all the rage. It was like the Westminster Dog Show, but with significantly more sass and less obedience. And, of course, the Persian was always a crowd favorite. I guess people really like watching cats being cats. You imagine the scene, ladies in bustles and gentlemen in top hats, booing and eyeing over meticulously groomed felines, all vying for the coveted best in show ribbon. The air thick with perfume and the faint aroma of cat treats. It's like a furry, purring version of Downton Abbey. So, what made the Persian so appealing? Well, besides its undeniably luxurious appearance, the Persian offered something that other breeds simply couldn't, an aura of calm. You might have noticed, the Persian is not exactly known for its acrobatic prowess. It's not the kind of cat that's going to be scaling your curtains or chasing laser pointers with reckless abandon. No, the Persian prefers a more sedate lifestyle. It's the cat that embodies the art of chilling. And in a world that's increasingly hectic and chaotic, that's a pretty valuable quality. You might find it surprising that early breeders focused not only on the cat's appearance but also on its temperament. They wanted a cat that was not only beautiful but also docile and affectionate. They succeeded, you agree? I mean, have you ever met a truly mean Persian? Sure, they can be a bit aloof and judgmental. But they're mostly just fluffy balls of love, and shed fur. You wonder if that's part of their secret, too. That the Persian isn't just visually appealing, but also emotionally satisfying. It's a cat that makes you feel good, simply by being in its presence. And really, isn't that what we all want? A little bit of beauty, a little bit of calm, and a whole lot of purrs. You know, there's a persistent rumor that some Persians are secretly trained as spies. Now, I'm not saying it's true. But I'm also not saying it's true. Just think about it, their fluffy fur provides excellent camouflage, their quiet demeanor allows them to blend seamlessly into any environment, and their ability to shed hair strategically could be used to plant evidence or frame unsuspecting victims. It's a conspiracy theory that practically writes itself. I'm kidding. Mostly. You muse that the Persian's legacy isn't just about what it is, but about what it represents. It represents a connection to the past, a celebration of beauty, and a reminder that sometimes, the best thing you can do is just curl up in a ball and take a nap. And you're getting pretty sleepy now. Wind down. You feel the gentle rhythm of your breathing, slow and steady. The shadows in the room have deepened, blurring the edges of your surroundings. The air is still, peaceful, filled with the quiet promise of slumber. You let your mind drift, carried on the soft currents of your imagination. You picture a field of lavender, swaying gently in the breeze, and you can almost smell its calming fragrance. You see a fluffy Persian cat, curled up in the middle of the field, its fur shimmering in the golden light. You feel a sense of deep relaxation wash over you, easing away any lingering tension or stress. Your muscles loosen, your eyelids grow heavy, and your thoughts begin to fade. You are safe, you are comfortable, you are at peace. The image of the Persian cat slowly dissolves into the darkness, leaving behind only a feeling of warmth and contentment. You drift further and further away, into the realm of dreams, where anything is possible and everything is beautiful. Sleep now. Let the gentle purrs of the Persian lull you into a peaceful slumber. Sweet dreams.